So, Nick, after the debacle of UFC 279, Khamzat Chimaev missing weight, he's basically come out and said, look, I'm going to 185 now, and I'm going to compete up there. And he just so happens to have a nemesis at 85, and it's none other than Paulo Costa. I think this is an intriguing matchup that could be made. I think the UFC should make this match. I'm just thinking about the press conference leading into this one. These two are going to go back and forth. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. And then also stylistically, from the questions that we still have regarding Khamzat's real potential and where he actually can go, the only criticism that you can really point to at this moment is that he's a bit of a size bully. You know, he cuts a lot of weight to make 170, and he's much stronger and much more powerful than the guys down there, and he bullies them. I don't really subscribe to that line of thinking, but if you did subscribe to that, Paulo Costa is the perfect opponent because Paulo is essentially a light heavyweight for all intents and purposes. The guy's massive. So if Khamzat can come in there and deal with his power and grab a hold of him and manhandle him, there is no question that he's as good as we think he is.
Yeah, there's some parallels to the size bully thing that you're talking about. And I push back on that a little bit. Khamzat Chimaev has had 5 fights in the UFC, 3 of which have been at 170, but 2 of them were at 185. So he's pretty much splitting time between 2 weight divisions. And I find that pretty entertaining, and it's rare. And when you have something rare in the sport, I really think you have to take it and run with it as far as you possibly can, because you don't often see people bounce back and forth between divisions. I understand since Conor came around and got the champ status, people have been wanting to do that when they get to a belt. But we've never really seen somebody bounce back as a contender and somebody who just jumped into the UFC into their first and second fight. They're jumping in between 2 weight classes, and everybody seems to forget that Khamzat Chimaev jumped from 85 down to 70 that first time. So in my opinion, unless he's grown significantly as a human, which, you know, judging by his social media and the fact that we get to follow his career over the past couple of years, he hasn't done that. I don't think the 170 cut's all that difficult for him. I mean, he did fight his very first fight in the UFC at 185, and then just 6 or 7 days later, he fought at 170. So if he's able to do that after rehydrating for a 185 fight, I feel like he's built perfectly for about 177, 180, and he might as well just split the difference and do both divisions. So as far as I'm concerned, I think he just belongs in both divisions, and I don't think he's going to be one of those people that's too big for 170 but just tries to kill himself to make it down there. I think he's a very strong guy for 170, but I also think he belongs in the division.
Yeah, and it's a good point to say that you don't normally see people jumping back and forth weight divisions as contenders. Now, obviously, catchweight bouts come up and last-minute bouts come up, but Khamzat has made it very openly clear that he wants to compete in both divisions with scheduled fights in both divisions, which I find to be very interesting because most fighters, even like Conor, will stay in their division and be laser focused on getting that belt, and they won't even mention 155 or 170 or whatever the weight class is above them until they've really cemented themselves as the top guy in their weight class. Then they'll talk about going up. So for Khamzat to do it on his way up is something unique, and we talk a lot about how unique of a fighter he is and how skilled he is. Kevin Holland used to be a 185 fighter, and Kevin just fought him. The most recent person to feel the strength that is Khamzat Chimaev was Kevin the Trailblazer Holland. And Kevin said, look, the strength, the power, I get it now. This guy is the real deal. He's very strong. And for a Travis Lutter black belt who competed most of his career at 185 to get thrown around like that and then come out after the fact and say, yeah, this guy's the real deal and he's as strong as advertised, I don't think the strength thing will be an issue for him at 85. But if there ever was a guy to overpower him from a strength and power standpoint, it's Paulo Costa. So I think Khamzat's far more technically superior than Paulo. I think he's a way better wrestler. I do actually think his striking is more precise. I'm not a huge fan of the technicality of Costa's striking. He's just very powerful. So I think that it will really truly be a strength versus technique sort of situation where the strength is on the side of Paulo and the technique, certainly the wrestling technique, and in my opinion also the striking technique, would favor Khamzat Chimaev.
Yeah, and I find this interesting for a lot of reasons. First of all, people have questioned Khamzat Chimaev's gas tank ever since he fought Gilbert Burns. And we also realized he was a human when he fought Gilbert Burns. We saw him get dropped a couple of times. And if you take those same shots that you took from Gilbert Burns, from Paulo Costa, you might not be left standing and you might not make it to the end of the fight. That being said, Paulo Costa also seems to have a major problem with his gas tank, and he's done things like shown up to fight week for a 185 fight at 210, 215 pounds.
Yeah.
So he's kind of done a lot of the same things that Khamzat Chimaev has done, and I think that this fight is all but made. I feel like the UFC is definitely working on this one, and it has to be what both of these guys do next. But if it doesn't happen, we know for sure it will happen at some point. And what I'm most interested in seeing is how well Paulo's gas tank holds up and how well Khamzat Chimaev's chin would hold up, because I do think if he gets hit hard enough by Paulo Costa, he's going to sleep. And if Khamzat can make Paulo Costa grapple with him and do what Kevin Holland was doing, where scrambling, he's going to gas out very, very quick, and we might see Khamzat Chimaev run away with it. Credit to his gas tank.
I think you're right. Thanks for watching this video, guys. We're your hub for all things combat sports. If that's your jam, we appreciate a subscribe and a like on the video, and drop us a comment down below. We'll see you next time.
Peace.